The boy next door had a vicious tongue, always mocking my weight for laughs. At our high school graduation dinner, someone joked that Corey and I were childhood sweethearts. He slammed his fork down, face twisting in disgust. Are you insane? Who'd like a whale like Wendy? I hang out with her out of pity, the table roared. Carter, our class president, frowned. You're blind, Corey. Wendy's bone structure is better than anyone here. If she lost the weight, you wouldn't be fit to tie her shoes. Silence flickered. Then laughter exploded again. Serious, Carter? Her Corey scoffed, eyeing me mockingly. If she loses weight and looks half as good as Bella, I'll kneel and apologize. But we all know that'll never happen. More howls of laughter under the table. My fist clenched. 8 years of secret feelings shattered in that instant. That night I stood before my full-length mirror, 5 feet 8 inches, 200 pounds. I made 2 quiet decisions. 1, I would lose the weight. 2, I would not follow him to Colombia. Back at the restaurant, Bella, the reigning prom queen, had laughed the loudest. She deliberately dropped a greasy piece of pork belly onto my plate. Don't be sad, Wendy. Eat up. A full stomach makes you forget everything. Someone else immediately chimed in, exactly. Our Wendy doesn't need a boyfriend. A plate of ribs is all she needs. The table exploded again. Corey leaned back in his chair, a lingering smirk playing on his lips as he scrolled through his phone. He acted completely detached, like the humiliation he just orchestrated had nothing to do with him. Carter shot him a dark look but chose not to start a fight. Bella leaned over and whispered something directly into Corey's ear. Corey let out a low, husky chuckle. It wasn't loud, but in the chaotic room, I heard it perfectly. I set my chopsticks down on the ceramic rest. I'm heading out. Bella instantly plastered on a mask of fake concern. Wendy, please don't be mad. We were honestly just joking around. I ignored her completely. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the exit. As I passed Corey's chair, he didn't even bother to look up. He was too busy texting Bella. I stopped right beside him. Corey, he finally lifted his head, his eyes laced with heavy impatience. What? I just looked at him. My mind flashed back to when we were 6 years old. He had just moved into the house next door and scraped his knee on the pavement. I was the one who crouched in the dirt, digging desperately through my tiny backpack just to find my only band-aid for him. When he put it on, he gave me a brilliant, toothy smile. I held on to that single smile for 8 years. Every single word you said today, my voice was eerily quiet. One day you are going to regret them. He raised an eyebrow, letting out a dismissive scoff. Regret? I guarantee you I will never. I didn't stick around to hear the rest. I pushed the heavy restaurant doors open and walked out into the night. The street was suffocatingly quiet. My hands were shaking violently, but I refused to let a single tear fall. It wasn't that I didn't feel the pain. It was because it hurt so deeply that crying felt completely useless. My best friend, Gemma, chased after me, grabbing my wrist tightly. Wendy, I swear to God I will go back in there right now and dump a drink on his Gemma. I cut her off, my voice raw and scraped hollow. Just walk with me. The amber street lights stretched our shadows out across the pavement. We walked for a long time before I finally spoke again. He's right about one thing. I am 200 pounds, but he said I could never lose it. I am going to make him eat those words. Gemma bit her lip hard and didn't say a word. She just squeezed my hand tighter. When I finally got home, the house was completely dark. My parents were already asleep. I stood alone in the bathroom under the harsh fluorescent lights. I actually had a medium frame, but it was completely buried. My face was dangerously round, my jawline practically non-existent. But as I leaned closer to the glass, I saw the truth. My eye shape was striking. The bridge of my nose was naturally high. And there was a tiny, delicate beauty mark resting right beneath the outer corner of my eye. Carter's words echoed in my ears. If she ever lost the weight, you wouldn't even be fit to tie her shoelaces. Was it true? I didn't know. But tonight my mind was set. First, I was dropping the weight. My goal was 115 pounds. Second, I logged straight into the university admission portal. My cursor hovered over Columbia University's Fine Arts program. I stared at those glowing letters for a long time. I picked that major 3 years ago solely to stay close to Corey. I spent countless sleepless nights perfecting my portfolio just to make sure we ended up in the same city. Enough. I hit delete in the search bar. I typed UCLA. Distance, 3,000 miles away. My thumb hovered over the confirm button. 1 second. 2 seconds. I pressed it. Status, submitted. I tossed my phone onto the mattress, switched off the lamp, and stared up at the dark ceiling. I didn't shed a single tear. Instead, an unfamiliar, absolute peace washed over my chest. Wendy, starting tomorrow, you are living for yourself. The alarm dragged me out of bed at 5 in the morning. The sky outside was still pitch black. I laced up my running shoes, stepped out into the freezing air, and started jogging along the river trail. On the first day, I barely made it a mile before I felt like my lungs were collapsing. By the third day, I pushed it to 2 miles. My knees throbbed so badly I could barely walk up the stairs. On the 5th day, I finished 3 miles. And immediately threw up in the bushes, but I never skipped a single morning. On the evening of the 6th day, I was stretching against the brick wall outside my apartment building when Corey walked up. He was returning from the basketball court, spinning a ball on his finger. He stopped and looked me up and down. Why are you dripping in sweat? I didn't answer. I just switched legs and kept stretching. He leaned casually against the wall, his tone dripping with his usual careless arrogance. People in the group chat are saying you're actually trying to run to lose weight. I stayed completely silent. He just kept talking, convinced he knew everything. If you're serious, just buy a gym membership. Jogging on the street won't do anything for a baseline like yours. Honestly, just forget it. He paused, then shifted the topic. Anyway, Columbia's orientation is September 3rd. Did you join the freshman group chat yet? My hands briefly stalled. He fully believed I was still going to Columbia. Everyone did. I stood up straight, keeping my face completely blank, and walked toward the lobby doors. He called out from behind me, "Hey, did you join or not? I can send you the invite link." The heavy glass door clicked shut, instantly cutting off his voice. As I walked up the stairs, the corners of my mouth curled up into a cold smile. Keep waiting, Corey. When September 3rd rolls around, you'll figure it out. On the 8th night, someone dropped a video into our high school group chat. It was a clip of me running along the river, heavy, ragged breathing, a sweat-drenched t-shirt clinging to my back, everything jiggling violently with every heavy step. Whoever filmed it intentionally zoomed in from the most unflattering angle possible. I am screaming, laughing. Wendy is actually trying to exercise. Corey's comment at dinner really did a number on her. Didn't Carter say she had potential? I'm using a magnifying glass and I still can't find a single cheekbone. Bella chimed in, keep it up, Wendy. Columbia's art department is packed with gorgeous girls. If you don't slim down before orientation, you're going to feel so insecure. Smiley face. Then Corey's name popped up. My heart skipped a tiny beat. He wrote, stop posting this childish crap. Someone immediately teased, is Corey catching feelings? He replied instantly, you guys have way too much free time. Let her do whatever she wants. What she does has absolutely nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me, right? It never had anything to do with him. I secretly loved him for 8 years and he said it had nothing to do with him. I bled over my sketchbooks for 3 years to get into his dream school and he said it had nothing to do with him. Fine. From now on, I truly have nothing to do with you. I muted the group chat. I opened Gemma's messages. I'm going to my grandma's cabin in Montana until college starts. Keep it a secret. If anyone asks, you don't know anything, Gemma. My lips are sealed. Just promise me you'll come back alive. I smiled and sent an okay emoji. Then I opened my text thread with Corey. I scrolled through 3 years of pathetic, one-sided messages. My mom made your favorite ribs. Want not come over for dinner? It started raining. I brought an umbrella to the court for you. Good night. Every single message was left unread. Occasionally he would reply with a cold, "Yeah, got it." Or, "Stop bothering me." I took a deep breath. Delete contact. Block number. I didn't hesitate for a single second. The next morning I dragged my suitcase out to the sidewalk. I ran straight into Corey's mother checking her mailbox. "Wendy, honey, where are you off to?" "I'm staying with my grandma for the summer, Mrs. Davis." "Oh, well, when Corey comes over for dinner next week." "Mrs. Davis," I smiled politely. "Corey is 18 now. I don't think he needs my mom cooking for him anymore." As I dragged my luggage toward the waiting taxi, a window slid open on the second floor of the house next door. I knew exactly whose bedroom that was, but I didn't look back, not even once. My grandma's cabin was buried deep in the mountains. Cell service was basically a myth and Wi-Fi simply did not exist. The moment I arrived, I turned my phone off and locked it in a drawer. Every single morning I woke up at 5 and ran the brutal mountain trails. In the afternoons, I swam laps in the freezing lake. I was chopping firewood and hauling soil from my grandma's garden. My diet was violently strict: boiled chicken breast, steamed vegetables, and small portions of complex carbs. Week 1, I dropped 8 pounds, down to 192. Week 2, another 7, down to 185. By week 3, the weight loss started slowing down. I forced myself to add an extra mile to my morning run. And started doing bodyweight strength training in the dirt. Week 4, 175. In exactly 1 month, I had lost 25 pounds. The mirror showed progress, but it wasn't earth-shattering yet. My face wasn't as bloated, but my jawline was still buried. My clothes hung loosely off my frame, making me look like a deflated balloon. I didn't let it break my focus. Keep going. Week 5, 168. Week 6, 160. I turned my phone on for the very first time. Dozens of texts flooded the screen. They were all from Gemma. "Corey texted me. He asked where you went." I played dumb. "He asked me again today. He even asked if you changed your number." Guess what he told the guys? He said she's just throwing a tantrum. Give it a few days and she'll come running back. I let out a harsh laugh. Throwing a tantrum? Corey? You really think you are the center of the universe? I kept scrolling. Gemma sent another update. He's getting super close with Bella today. Bella posted a picture of them getting smoothies after his game. The whole group chat is asking if they're officially dating. I stared at the message. I waited for the familiar twist of jealousy in my gut. Surprisingly, there was nothing. It didn't hurt. It genuinely did not hurt anymore. I powered down the phone and went back to training. Week 7. 150. Week 8, 142. The reflection in the mirror started changing violently. My jawline carved itself out sharp and defined. My cheekbone surfaced, making it look like my entire face had been sculpted from clay. My proportions finally made sense. My collarbones were visible. My legs went from stocky to long and lean. But it wasn't enough. I knew my absolute best was still hiding underneath. Keep going. Week 9, 135. I drove my grandma's rusty truck down to the local pharmacy to pick up her medication. When I handed the prescription to the young girl at the counter, she froze. She stared at my face for an uncomfortably long time. "Are you an actress? You look exactly like that girl from." My grandma quickly grabbed the bag and pulled me out the door. When we got back to the cabin, my grandma sat on the porch looking deeply troubled. "Your mother was exactly like this," she muttered. "Before middle school, she was just a chubby, harmless little thing. Then she lost the baby fat over a single summer and the entire town went absolutely crazy. But you are much more dangerous than your mother." I laughed it off, thinking she was just being dramatic. Week 10, 128. I turned on my phone for the second time, a fresh text from Gemma. "Corey told me to warn you that if you don't join the Columbia freshman group soon, you're going to miss room selections." His exact words: "Is she really still throwing a fit? Tell her I'm not going to babysit her on campus, so she better drop the attitude." Reading those words, I couldn't help but smile. He still fully believed I was heading to New York. He still thought I was going to follow him around like a lost puppy. Corey, what kind of fever dream are you living in? I typed a quick reply to Gemma. Don't tell a single soul I'm going to UCLA, especially him. Let him figure it out the hard way. Gemma replied with a string of laughing emojis, yes, ma'am. I cannot wait to see the look on his stupid face. Week 11, 1 turn 20. My grandma officially banned me from going into town. Day before yesterday, when you were reading by the lake. 3 boys from the neighboring ranch sat in their truck and stared at you for 4 straight hours. Did you even notice? It's not that serious, Grandma. Go look in the damn mirror. I did, and then I fell completely silent. The girl staring back at me. Me was a stranger. The girl staring back at me was a stranger. The round face that had haunted me for years was gone. A sharp jawline framed delicate features I had never known I possessed. My eyes looked larger. The tiny beauty mark beneath my eye drew attention instead of disappearing beneath soft cheeks. Even my posture had changed. I stood straighter. Confident. For the first time in my life, I smiled at my own reflection without immediately looking away. Grandma folded her arms. I told you. I blinked. Told me what? She sighed. Pretty girls always think life gets easier. It doesn't. It just gets different. The final week passed quickly. I reached my goal far earlier than expected. 117 pounds. I refused to go any lower. Instead of chasing the scale, I focused on building strength. Running. Swimming. Lifting whatever heavy things Grandma found around the farm. By the time August ended, I looked athletic rather than fragile. When I hugged Grandma goodbye, she pinched my cheek. Promise me one thing. What? Don't ever let a boy convince you your value depends on whether he notices you. I smiled. I already learned that lesson. The airport buzzed with travelers. I wore simple jeans, white sneakers, and a navy sweater. No makeup except sunscreen and lip balm. Even then, people glanced at me more than they used to. Not because I was dressed up. Because confidence changes the way people carry themselves. I boarded my flight to Los Angeles. 3,000 miles from everything I'd spent 8 years chasing. Meanwhile. Columbia University. September 3rd. Orientation Day. Corey slung his backpack over one shoulder while scrolling through the freshman roster. His roommate nudged him. So. You ever figure out where your neighbor disappeared to? Corey rolled his eyes. She's dramatic. Probably trying to make me apologize. Another student laughed. So she'll show up eventually? Obviously. He checked his phone again. Still blocked. He frowned. Weird. Orientation began. Students filled the auditorium. Corey looked around absent-mindedly. No Wendy. Fine. Maybe she'd overslept. After lunch. Still no Wendy. By evening. Still nothing. His confidence began cracking. He finally opened the freshman directory. Wendy Harper. No results. He searched again. Nothing. His stomach tightened. He walked straight to the administration desk. Excuse me. I'm looking for another freshman. The staff member typed for a moment. Name? Wendy Harper. Another pause. I'm sorry. We don't have anyone by that name enrolled here. Corey frowned. That's impossible. She was accepted. The woman smiled politely. She may have declined her admission. For several seconds. He simply stood there. Declined? No. She had worked for years to get into Columbia. She had obsessed over it. A cold realization crawled into his chest. It had never been Columbia. It had always been him. And she'd finally stopped. Thousands of miles away. UCLA orientation. Wendy? I turned around. A tall student carrying a sketchbook smiled. You must be Harper. I'm Daniel. Our advisor paired us for the campus art tour. I smiled back. Nice to meet you. He blinked once. then laughed awkwardly. I almost walked past you. You looked different in your application photo. I laughed. It was taken a while ago. I can tell. The two of us walked across campus beneath rows of palm trees. For the first time, no one knew me as the overweight girl. No one knew about Corey. No one knew about Bella. I wasn't anybody's joke. I was simply Wendy. Back in New York, Corey spent the next week texting everyone. Corey, has anyone heard from Wendy? Classmate, didn't you say she was throwing a tantrum? Corey, just answer the question. No one knew. Finally he called Gemma. She answered after several rings. What? Where's Wendy? I don't know. Liar. Gemma snorted. Didn't you say what she does has absolutely nothing to do with you? Silence. Gemma. Please. She had never heard that word come out of Corey's mouth before. She almost laughed. I honestly can't help you. Click. She hung up. Weeks passed. Corey started checking social media. Nothing. No photos. No updates. No location tags. She had disappeared completely. For the first time since they were children. He had no idea where Wendy was. And for reasons he couldn't explain. The empty house next door suddenly felt unbearably quiet. Only then did he begin to understand that the person who had always been there was gone. Corey told himself it was just habit. For 18 years, if he looked out his bedroom window at 6 in the morning, Wendy was usually outside watering flowers with her mother or walking to school with a sketchbook tucked under her arm. Now the yard next door stayed empty. The lights never came on. No one knocked on his door asking if he wanted dinner. No umbrella waited for him when it rained. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, it was wrong. At UCLA, my world expanded faster than I ever imagined. The Fine Arts building buzzed with students carrying canvases, cameras, and clay sculptures. Nobody cared what anyone had looked like in high school. They only cared what you could create. Professor Anderson stopped beside my easel during the first critique. Your composition is excellent. He pointed to my charcoal portrait. But this. His finger rested near the eyes. This carries emotion. You draw people like you understand loneliness. The room fell quiet. I simply smiled. I do. A month later, the department announced a national freshman illustration competition. The winning artwork would be displayed in galleries across several universities, including Columbia. I stared at the announcement. For a second, I almost laughed. Life really had a strange sense of humor. Daniel nudged my shoulder. You entering? I wasn't planning to. You should. You've got the best portraits in our class. I looked at the blank application. This time, I wasn't entering to prove anything to Corey. I entered because I wanted to. Back in New York, Corey and Bella had become the unofficial campus couple. At least, that's what everyone assumed. Bella loved the attention. She posted selfies from cafes, basketball games, late-night walks through campus. Whenever someone commented, "You two are adorable," she never corrected them. Corey never noticed. Or maybe he simply didn't care enough to. One afternoon Bella looped her arm through his. So. When are you finally asking me out? Corey stopped walking. What? She blinked. I thought. You've been spending all your time with me. He gently removed her hand. I thought we were just friends. Her smile froze. Friends? I never said anything else. Bella's face turned bright red. Half a dozen nearby students had already overheard. She forced a laugh. Oh. Right. Friends. She walked away with perfect posture. The moment she turned the corner, tears of humiliation streamed down her face. 2 weeks later, the freshman illustration competition results were released. First place. Wendy Harper, UCLA. Attached was a portrait titled Letting Go. It depicted a young woman walking away from a crumbling bridge without looking back. The judges praised its emotional depth. the artwork spread quickly through university art circles. By coincidence, Columbia's Fine Arts Department displayed the winning entries in its main gallery. Corey wandered in after class with a few teammates. I heard the winning piece is incredible. He barely glanced at the artist's name. Then he looked up. His entire body froze. Wendy Harper. His teammates kept walking. Corey couldn't move. He stepped closer. The painted girl's face wasn't an exact self-portrait. But he recognized the eyes. The tiny beauty mark beneath one eye. The expression. Peace. Freedom. He read the artist's statement beneath the frame. Sometimes the hardest part isn't losing someone. It's realizing you've been carrying someone who never intended to walk beside you. So one day, you simply put the weight down. His chest tightened. For the first time, he understood. The painting wasn't about romance. It was about him. Not because she still loved him. Because she'd finally stopped. And somehow, that hurt far more than if she'd painted him as the villain. Corey couldn't bring himself to walk over. He watched from across the exhibition hall as Wendy laughed with Daniel and several gallery owners. She looked happy. Not the forced smile she used to wear around him. Not the nervous smile that always searched his face for approval. This smile belonged entirely to her. One of his teammates followed his gaze. Dude. She's gorgeous. Corey swallowed hard. Yeah. The teammate looked between them. You know her? After a long silence, Corey answered. I used to. The next morning, Corey showed up at Wendy's booth before the expo opened. She was arranging framed illustrations on display. She looked up. For a split second, surprise crossed her face. Then it disappeared. Corey. Her voice was calm. No anger. No excitement. Just recognition. He forced a smile. You look different. I've heard that. I wanted to congratulate you. Thanks. An awkward silence stretched between them. Finally he said quietly. I was wrong. She tilted her head. About what? He gave a bitter laugh. Everything. I mocked you. I embarrassed you. I thought. He looked down. I thought you'd always be there. Wendy studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. You were right about one thing, though. His eyes lifted hopefully. What? I did lose the weight. A tiny smile tugged at her lips. And you did say if that happened. She let the sentence hang. Corey's face slowly drained of color. He remembered. If she loses weight and looks half as good as Bella, I'll kneel and apologize. The promise he had made while everyone laughed. Wendy wasn't smiling anymore. I'm not asking you to. I don't need an apology. She turned back to her paintings. You can go. Instead. Corey took one step back. Then another. He looked around. Students, professors, visitors, and artists were beginning to fill the hall. His ears burned. Slowly. He lowered himself onto one knee. The surrounding conversation stopped. Someone whispered. What's happening? Corey's voice shook. I'm sorry. I was cruel. I humiliated you because I thought it was funny. You deserved better. You always deserved better. The hall fell completely silent. Wendy looked at him without triumph. Without hatred. Just peace. She walked over. Everyone held their breath. She reached into her bag. Pulled out a folded napkin. And handed it to him. He blinked. What's this? She smiled gently. For your knees. The floor looks uncomfortable. A few people nearby couldn't hold back their laughter. Not cruel laughter. Embarrassed laughter. Corey's face turned scarlet. She waited until the room quieted. Then she spoke softly enough that only he could hear. You know what the difference is between us? He looked up. For years. I thought becoming prettier would make you love me. I was wrong. She took a small step back. Becoming happier taught me I didn't need you to. With that, she turned around. Daniel called from across the booth. Wendy. The curator's looking for you. I'm coming. She walked away without looking back. Not once. 6 months later. The Los Angeles Gallery held Wendy's first featured exhibition. Every painting sold. 2 were purchased by museums. 1 by a famous film director. Her name began appearing in art magazines. Not because of her appearance. Because of her talent. Back in New York, Corey graduated near the top of his class. He had offers to play basketball overseas. People still admired him. But every now and then, someone would recognize Wendy's name. Wait. Weren't you neighbors with that artist? You must be proud. Corey would smile faintly. Yeah. I am. They always assumed he was smiling because they'd stayed close. Only he knew the truth. He wasn't part of her story anymore. He was just a lesson in its first chapter. One spring afternoon, Wendy received a package. Inside was a worn sketchbook. The first one she'd ever filled as a child. A note rested inside. It read. I found this while cleaning my room. You drew superheroes, trees, our street, and me with a band-aid on my knee. I laughed at your drawings back then because I was immature. Looking at them now, I realize you've always been extraordinary. I'm sorry I noticed too late. I won't bother you again. I just wanted to return something that always belonged to you. Corey. Wendy smiled softly. Not because her feelings had returned. Because they hadn't. She closed the sketchbook, placed it on her bookshelf among her newest works, and whispered. Thank you, for finally keeping your promise. She never replied. She didn't need to. Some endings don't require revenge through cruelty. Sometimes the greatest revenge is becoming everything someone insisted you could never be, and living so well that their apology no longer changes your life. And for Wendy Harper,